India, and then in Cambodia. So we're going to be taking you through a sort of world trip. So we begin. So some of you are new to us. You might not know us. You might have just heard about us through a partner. Some of you know us quite well. So Green Shoots is a registered charity in the UK. We focus on sustainable development by promoting holistic programs that combine economic development, food and agriculture, education, or medical aid. We always work with local partners. We try to implement multi-purpose programs, and this presentation today will show you that one little intervention can have such a knock-on effect on the running of an organization or the work that they do. We were established in October 2010, so we are now sort of a few months in, but celebrating our 10 years. And we have one full-time staff, that's me, and our founder, John Mark, who's also on the call. And then the rest of a lot of our work is through our interns and volunteers. So our programs, we have a food and agriculture program in Cambodia, and we'll focus on that today. And then our education loans and social entrepreneurship, which is in India. So that's with Shiksha Rath. So we'll talk about that. And then yesterday we focused a lot on our medical program. And then I also have a link to that video if anyone is interested. So working with partners, we talk a lot about working with local partners and like kind of making these partnerships to run programs, but what is it? What does it mean? We always go through a stage of questions when we want to work with partners. We try to find out if there is a need. How can we address it? So how does it align with what Green Shoots' mission is? And that's, sustainable development, having holistic programs. We always want to see if the partner is able to take ownership. So what is their capacity? How can we build their capacity to make sure that they're able to kind of go ahead with it once our support ends, or if they want to make something more out of it? And always keeping in mind the anticipated impact. So it's when you're starting to work with a partner, it's always having a shared vision, having a kind of a goal that is aligned. So always coming to a conclusion on what the anticipated impact would be, and making sure we have ways to measure it, and our partner is on board when it comes to monitoring the project and coming on board when we are evaluating it. And finally, ensuring longevity. So it's a lot, it ties in with this idea of ownership. It's sort of once we step out, or if we give the local organization the project, how can they run with it? So that's very important, and you have to think about it when you're starting a partnership. So with all of these projects that I'm going to tell you about today, it is something that we've thought about, and it is something that we've sort of understood, and you'll see as I give the presentations how we've done that. So first, we are in India. So we're talking about our education loans and social entrepreneurship programs. So the vision here is supporting economic empowerment as a tool for achieving economic and social sustainability. How could we do this? And that's where we came across Shiksha Rath in Delhi. They're based in a slum, the Uttram Line slum. It's in the north of Delhi. And it's a holistic education program. So right on in the first word, their vision of how to do education for disadvantaged children was very similar to how we wanted to work. They have children coming from 56 different households, lots of migrant families. A few of you here on the call have been to see them or know them quite well. The parents come from a range of backgrounds of daily wage earners, laborers, rickshaw drivers, housemaids, and these professions don't have a time limit. They go on. So Shiksha Rath is really an after school project for when these kids come back from school. They'll be here. It's a safe space. They would not be enticed into the typical sort of happenings in Islam or be kind of street kids. Utula and the team have set up a space, and they've moved houses, but they've managed to maintain that same amount of security for kids and keep on going. A great thing to also mention here is that they also celebrate 10 years last year. So it's really nice to see how both of our organizations have grown together, and sort of the support that we provide them, but the volumes of work that they have done. So they do lots of extracurricular activities. They take, they encourage children to take part in everything from art to day-to-day classes. They do lots of field trips. And they've also run lots of campaigns for families living in these slums. So they focus a lot on anti-child marriage. They've done surveys with families to see kind of, what was the marriageable age of most women in the families that they work. If it was 12, they know the age group of the children. There are 43 girls from 6 to 18. So they need to make sure that these girls, their future is secure. And so they do lots of campaigns with that. They focus on women and children abuse, because that's also quite, at times, common in spaces such as these. And finally, equality for girls through college scholarships and sponsorships. And that's probably where something Green Shoots can help them with, because we work on sponsorship program. And finally, they've provided clean water, and they've run medical camps 3 times a year for families. So they're doing a lot on their own. This is everything that they do with their accord. And our role in this partnership is to help them raise funds, make sure that we are a channel for them to have an outlet in the UK where they can be connected to such kind of individuals, church groups, and organizations that want to give to Shiksha Rath. And so we've had Tom Fremantle, who is a travel writer and sort of young children writer, and he's done lots of events for us. We've secured sponsorships for them, and we make sure that they have a kind of a way to broadcast their impact in the UK. And one of the things that I think a lot of us would be interested in today, right now, is what's happening during COVID. These few photos are from the first lockdown, where Atula was in touch with the kids and they were doing activities at home. And but it's a tough situation now. So I'll let Atula kind of jump in and sort of give us a little update, which I think a lot of us would like to hear, that, how is it going at the moment there?
Thank you, Munizi. First of all, my big congratulations for completing 10 years of your amazing work. And it's all because of our partnership with Green Shoot that we could do a lot. I'll explain to you later how it has helped us so far. Well, thank you so much for elaborating a lot about Shiksha Rath and what we have been doing. And to be really honest, the last 2 years have been so challenging because of the COVID. But I can say that our children and the families are quite resilient, and they are very strong. They're just fighting back with the situation, and they're doing really good. Now, we were able to kind of did a lot of things for the families with the help from friends and families and well-wishers during the lockdown. And even now we are in the lockdown, and since yesterday, it has become much stricter than the last time. So all the convenience has been shut down, but in spite of all that, we are in touch with the children, and most of our children had gone home, which will be home in a sense, their villages, which will be much safer for them. Now, coming back to what we have been doing during the lockdown was what I have seen from the children reaction was their desire not to give up. And during the lockdown, in spite of the lack of smartphones and the lack of computers and all that, they were really, really, eager to learn. And so what we did was we kind of got some secondhand smartphones, and using our own phones, we were receiving their school works, and then we will print it out and then let the kids do their homework, school works, and then again, help them learning through the YouTubes and different things. So one major thing that we helped children during the lockdown was helping them in their studies using our own gadgets. And we did a lot of mass distribution and hygiene packages and grocery packages 3-4 times, and also giving sanitary pads to the girls and the mothers and the women in the community. We also did a lot of giving them clean water. Especially the major problem we discovered during the lockdown was good, clean drinking water. So we did our best cleaning, buying all this clean waters and distributing to the families, but we realized that it was just a short term. So just after the first lockdown, we were able to install one big filter for the community. It may not reach the whole community, but at least some of our Shiksha Rath families can take clean water from the tank. So in the future also, we would like to expand that project and see how we can bring clean water to the community. But apart from that, we did a lot of, activities with the children in terms of how to keep their mind and their body as well as their emotion intact, and see how they can not give up in this fight. And unfortunately, during the lockdown and during the situation, it's the poor people who are suffering the most.
Yeah.
But we have learned, me personally, I've learned a lot from them, because I have not seen any complaint from them in spite of all the problems that they were going through, and the lack of food and the lack of their personal things that was going on. But still, they were very positive, and that was one thing that I've learned, and it really gave us an ample opportunity to work together with them. And we also help some of the families with finances just to kickstart after the first lockdown. And also we have helped some of the families, apart from all the distribution of food and hygiene stuffs and helping them finances. We help few families in terms of connecting them to the counselors, because they were going through a hard time, especially a mental problem, because of the space, as well as the problems that was going between the husband and wife. And also because of that, the children were suffering, and some of the kids were physically abused because of the problem between the father and mother. So we were able to intervene just after the first lockdown, and things were going fine. And even now, though we are completely shut down, we are in touch with the children, and we are trying to see how we can help them once this lockdown is opened. So we are doing different projects again, so that we can quickly give the reliefs to them.
Is there any specific project that you can share with us today, or is it something that you've planned, sort of learning from your experience of last year? And
Yes. Right now we have already started 3 projects in hand, which is we want to set up computer classes for the children. What we have realized was that most of the kids cannot even go to a computer classes, so they are very much in lack of the technology. And so we want to give them basic computer classes, so that they may be able to in the future also, if something happened like this, God forbid, then they will be able to use the catchers as well as learn from online classes. So we will be focusing on setting up a small computer lab instead of a hard disk. We want to raise funds for laptops so that they can study anywhere. And also we have realized that most of the kids during this time also, we realize that the skills are into business and entrepreneurial spirit they have. So we are now setting up fundraising for the future entrepreneurial venture, so that when they at least reach class 10, which is less minimum certificate that they need to have, at least they can start their own small business. So we like to help them in giving them small capitals to start their business. So that's the second thing. We also like to continue with the girls college sponsorship, which is very much in need, because most of the girls, they want to continue the studies, and we realize that the parents are very much against the girls going to college. They would prefer to get them married and then help them in just household work. So we want to set up funds for them, for the girls. Around 7 of them will reach class 10 this working on it at the moment. And apart from that, yes, the immediate one will be we are preparing for the grocery distribution once again, and also for the financial needs for the families to kickstart after the lockdown.
Great. Thank you for sharing all of those updates. We will take some questions, but I think later on, maybe, because I think we can sort of carry on with our tour of the world with our partners. So if you do have questions, please type them in the chat box. And yeah, thank you, Atula, for sharing that with us. So now we move on to another program of ours, which is our Food and Agriculture and Social Entrepreneurship Initiative. And our aim here is to revitalize rural economies by sustainable agriculture skills and business development. So the next few studies of partnerships that I will offer focus a lot more on that. So we go on to Cambodia, which is a country in Southeast Asia. It has a population of about 15 million. 68% of the population is under 30. And so it's quite a young population. 70% is focused in labor, is focused in agriculture, and 48% of rural students complete secondary school. So these were a few statistics that we were noticing. We had partnerships with organizations such as connections with organizations such as Enfants du Mekong. Some of them are here on the call today. And it was trying to understand that, there are organizations providing academic, educational sort of interventions, but then lots of these kids don't necessarily complete secondary schools. What happens to them, and how can we take part in that? So we've started to focus on sort of looking at environmental sort of education within rural communities, and then also social enterprise. As Atula mentioned, a lot of young people have an entrepreneurial spirit, and I think we can see the same in Cambodia, and our role here is to harness that within young people. So here, this is the part in Cambodia that we'll focus on, this large ring and Siem Reap, and also this little dot thing map pinpoint, which is the Udar Minche province, where we have some of our work. So first, we are in Enfants du Mekong in their center in Samrong. So Enfants du Mekong is a French organization founded in 1958. So they're celebrating much more than 60 years of work. They support 60,000 kids across the Mekong region. They run education centers and foster houses. So they house young people who want to access high school and secondary school and might not necessarily have that in their village. They have one of the most sort of intelligent people within the country in their centers. I can vouch for that because I've met a lot of them. They go through a rigorous process of examinations to be there. And they have 100 development projects every year. And this includes anything from rehabilitation for school to ponds to water connections in villages. So they are the pilot partnership phase. They're the first organization that we were in touch with. This was back in 2012. And we proposed to have a vegetable garden in one of their centers. This would mean that they could grow fresh vegetables on site. They could include the kids in that process. It would be delivered through our partners. All the teaching would be done in Khmer, and it would be an additional skill to what the kids were already doing. They would have classes every week, and the role was, as a pilot project, it's our way to sort of see if this intervention works and can it be scaled up. So we are extremely grateful to have been given that chance and seeing that a vegetable garden was thriving in their space. And it was something that supplemented their meals, and it was also something that was a massive stepping stone for the rest of our work in Cambodia since 2012. We went on to do much more kind of larger projects, which you will hear about tomorrow. But the pilot project for vegetable garden in the Enfants du Mekong Center was great because it provided vegetables to the center. They prepare almost 2 meals every day for about 60 kids. So those kids were being fed. And also it has lots of these other transferable values. Kids learn how to work in teams, they learn how to work in groups, they have a lot of sense of responsibility. I know that they would wake up at 5 a.m. to water the garden before they started studying. And mind you, they do study a lot here. And I think Ginny, who's on the call, can vouch for that. They learn about timekeeping, And then slowly and gradually, they also started to learn things like food waste and food security and sort of reusing foods to make pesticides, natural pesticides and compost. And finally, it's also a skill that they can take back to their family. What they're learning is completely sort of sustainable, nature-friendly farming. They can set up a small garden in their home and sort of help their families. These kids also come from extremely poor backgrounds, so having this additional income or additional food at the home level could be a great kind of input. And the other thing that we do with them is a rice paddy. So we have a 5-hectare land close to the EDM center. So it's very close to the center now. The center has moved. So, and Green Shoots has been managing the space for the last few years. 2014 is when we, or 13 rather, is when we first started. It's improved the land and the quality. So we focus completely on organic rice farming. We improve the land using things like bat manure, cow manure, planting mung beans, and all these other things, no chemicals at all. And one thing that, you know, is a key indication of the land improving is the harvest quality, but also the land appreciation. We bought this piece of land for $750 in 2012, and it's now more than $3,000. Yes, land is precious, but also what it's giving to us is a clear indication. And the rice grown annually and the harvest is used completely at the center. So again, they're preparing nearly 3 meals, 2 meals a day, every day for 60 kids. So there's a lot of rice that they can now use. And it also allows us and our project to experiment with sustainable rice growing techniques. We're able to showcase to different farmers in the area, different ways to grow rice, different ways to make sure that their paddy is kept safe, making sure that, you know, they don't burn the paddy after growing and plant mung beans and things like that. So it's also something that, you know, has been an extremely great kind of partnership for us. And the benefit is that there is food security in the rice field. So the best harvest that we've had has been in 2014, which was around 2 tons per hectare, which was nearly double the rest of the community. So we also didn't have a pond there on site at the moment. But now this year we had about 1 ton per hectare, which is okay. You know, you have to take into account that every year Cambodia is changing, the weather is changing, there's less rain, and how do you cope with that? How do you make sure that, you know, us and other farmers in the area are prepared for that? So working on the rice field is sort of a year-long project because it just sort of starts happening from around the May time. And you're always looking into ways into making sure that, you know, you have enough labor to farm and harvest. We've always had students from the center get involved in a little bit because I think it's something that's culturally part of them. Over here, there are girls who have the first harvest of the season and they're going to prepare a snack using it. So I think some of those cultural values stay and they remain, which is great, and I get to learn about them. So if you have any questions before we move on to our other partner, usually if you want anything to add anything, she's also somebody who I shared the office with in the UK. She's from Suriname, the Mekong.
Thank you. No, it was very interesting. Thank you very much, Munzi.
Yeah, so I think it's good to add that, you know, this work is in addition to everything that they're doing. Children of the Mekong, Uncle the Mekong work focuses on academic education and sponsorship and delivery of academics. This is just an additional to their work, and it's a partnership which is beneficial for both. They get to have rice and food on their space, and we get to try out lots of different techniques. And it was a great stepping stone for us to work more in Cambodia. And another partnership that came out of that was this in Anjali House, which is in Siem Reap. And it's a sort of a touristic destination. Some of you might have been there. Some of you would know that it's sort of a very small town. And this is a NGO there, which was founded in 2005. It's a local organization. It really came out of the Angkor Photo Festival that takes place every year. And I think the beginnings of Anjali House were from that, where I think kids were handed out cameras and they sort of went around and took photos. So again, they very similar to our partner in India. They also focus on providing a safe and secure environment after school for young kids. They have a very strong focus also on arts and culture, and they are committed to improving lives of children through education. So they do lots of different activities, and they have a space sort of in the center of Siem Reap, just outside. They have kids coming from all ages. People, it's just sort of a walk-in center, and it's sort of very active and lively. And they have educational classes, but then also they have computer classes and different age groups, sort of from 6 to 18. And a few years ago, I would say 2016 is when this sort of partnership began, where we kind of approached, I'd heard about them through another contact, and we approached them to set up a small vegetable garden there. It's a skill that we were quite familiar with. We'd worked mostly in rural areas, and this was our chance to sort of come into a slightly peri-urban space where, you know, different types of families, but still wanting to be connected to nature. So, and growing food and making sure they're food secure. So we set up a very small space for them, which very quickly they expanded into this. And they took, so again, if you go back to the diagram that I showed in the beginning, it's an organization's ability to take something that's begun, but take ownership of it. So their ability to carry it forward, they included all the kids, and they set up a whole seedling space for themselves and made it quite much more of an interactive space. And they carry forward with it now. They a lot of the kids sort of bring seeds from their home that, you know, they've had something to eat, and then they bring it and they grow it here, because they might not necessarily have the same amount of space that a rural household would have. And they have an active compost pit that all the kids feed by bringing bio waste from their home, from anything from cow poo to peelings for vegetables from dinner, which I think is a great initiative as well, because it keeps the kids involved and keeps them kind of take complete ownership of a space like this. And again, food security, it's something that I've talked a lot about, and maybe I should explain it. It's basically an ability for families to feed themselves. So if they're growing their own food, if they can access food at a low price, if they can make sure that the household can have access to good quality, nutritious food, they're food secure. So at Anjali House, they now use the vegetables that they grow to serve lunch every day to almost 60 kids. And sometimes they'll supplement it with the market, but the fact that it exists is a huge plus. And another exciting collaboration that came out of this partnership was that they collaborated with an organization called Writing Through. We have a person here on the call from them as well. It was in 2019, so it's now nearly 3 years since the garden has been set up, and it's been expanded, and they've invested in a shed and all those spaces. And they did a workshop there. So Writing Through is an organization that was set up by Sue Bini, and they focus a lot on creative writing and sort of using creative writing as a tool for people to express themselves. And so they've been doing workshops around this in Cambodia and now most of Southeast Asia. And I sort of suggested to her, how about we do a theme around the vegetable garden? It comes from me having attended a soil analysis session and then doing a creative writing course out of that. And I found it bizarre, but also very entertaining. So I suggested to her, why don't you do one in Cambodia? So they used the vegetable garden in Anjali House. And I think they've done the same at Enfant du Mekong, but I'm not too sure. Yeah, so this is something that has come out of it, and they sort of get together in a group, sort of ages 12 to 16, sort of have a lot of time sitting in the garden, taking inspiration and having keywords which are said by Sue, who is a writer. She's a creative writer. And then this is a poem which I will read out, but it's there for you to also read on your screen. So this is by Soklei, who is 16 years old. And this is a poem that was inspired by the vegetable garden that was set up by Green Shoots at Anjali House. And it's called Be Like the Nature. So beautiful nature is dancing along the wind. The sun is shining with a colorful view. The beautiful butterflies are flying around, feeling happy and loving it. Nature is trying to grow, trying to prove the obstacle. to get out of the hard land, to see the sunshine, and give hope to the humans. Touch the wind. Do you feel it? Please breathe and imagine. So yeah, so this is a poem that I think it's, I'm no reciter of poetry, but I hope it did a good job. But yeah, I think what the beautiful thing is that it's a poem that, you know, came out of a space that you created, which was there to provide food. And the meaning of that space is just taken by Anjali House and been made into so many different ways. And that's, as an organization that sort of funded a project and seen a partnership grow and blossom, that is, you know, something that's really there to celebrate. And this is another, you know, sort of plus is Anjali House's COVID response during the entire last year and now has been to provide home gardening kits to the families that they support. Like with all spaces, the house was closed down as an educational space, but they continue to work in the community and make sure that they provide for them. So a few of the examples below are home gardens that the kind of families that they support have created. They did a few trainings and provided them starter kits, which are about 50 to 30 to 50 US dollars, I think. And then, yeah, I think, you know, in terms of if you look at how our lives have been in the last year, having something to do, something therapeutic like greenery, my house is covered in plants, as like most of ours is during COVID, having them grow their own food, having that as an activity to do. Most of Siem Reap is tourists, most of Siem Reap residents are involved in touristic related jobs. So I'm sure, you know, they have faced those hardships, and then having their own food to grow is great. So we play a little video that they have sent to us, and I hope you can hear it.
Good morning, my name is Simone. I'm director at Anjali. Anjali have been providing children with potential education for more than 10 years. Additional to the learning program, we initiated with life skill linked to green environment. By the time, Princes were so kind to support us with funds and garden technical to move Anjali and the school space to become beautiful organic garden. Our staff, volunteers, and students will be able to make organic compost, fertilizer, and pesticide. Also share with the other school and people in our community with the technique we had learned from Prince's support. We have been produced vegetable for our children's meal for a few years. During COVID-19 pandemic, we donated vegetable to our student families, encourage them to do home gardening, and also they receive seeds, tools to make their own vegetable at home. Also, they could save some money from buying vegetable from the market. For the moment, our students keep learning garden lesson and also take vegetable home. We still love garden projects and keep move forward to be demo garden that could show to our community and encourage them to keep doing their home gardening. Thank you.
Great. So that is all from me. I have Nadi here on the call that can sort of give us a little bit more update on how it's going currently. Cambodia is in quite a more stricter lockdown. Maybe she can just quickly tell us if they're still able to do this sharing of kind of vegetable garden kits. Is it still happening? And yeah.
Sure. So, hi everyone, I'm Maddie. So right now, our staff is able to go in and keep the garden at least under control because everything turns wild so quickly. Our garden is pretty much self-sustainable now. So we sell some produce to local restaurants that buy from us, as well as our loofah. And right now, the staff comes in and they manage, as well as some scholarship students that come in and do their volunteer hours to help with the garden. But it's nice, just like you were saying, just have somewhere to go out and we can kind of be together, but still be socially distanced and outside. So that's really nice. Our program has changed a little bit, or was planning to change before COVID hit, and we did a needs analysis, and most families said that they had raised their economic status enough that they could now feed themselves. So we stopped doing the lunches, but every class is in charge of a little plot in the garden, and whatever they grow, they just take home with them rather than eating at Anjali.
Okay.
Changed a little bit, but we will, of course, have to reassess now that the pandemic has hit and our families have been hit pretty hard. And we've seen good results from the home gardening. We even have 4 more girls that grew up at Anjali House, and they're studying in Sihanoukville, which has been locked down for a long time because it's one of the hot zones. Yeah. And they started a little garden as well, just to help with a little bit of food, but I think just really mentally getting out and being able to do that and do it together has really helped.
Great, thank you for that input. And I think, yeah, it's nice to know that the sort of you do a needs assessment with the community and see, and it's nice that they can take the food that they grow back home, and then you've been providing families with the vegetables throughout lockdown. I've noticed that there was some discussion taking place in the chat. I haven't been able to follow it, but if you have any other questions from us or our partners, then please do type them in. And we had Atula in the beginning, so we've got questions for our partners in India. And John Mark, if you would like to add something, then please do.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you all for attending, and in particular our partners. A lot has to be said about what they're doing and how committed they are to their mission. And I think the reason why they have so many supporters, fans, is because of this commitment to values, to a vision of a better life for the local communities that they have been supporting for many years. And whether it's Shiksha Rath, Enfants du Mekong, Anjali House, all of them have demonstrated the excellence of their programs. You know, how they are taking kids and trying to bring them the best of what the future can bring to them. And there's little actually Green Shoots can do or really needs to do to change that. Actually, we shouldn't change anything because they already know what to do and how to do it. The only thing we can try and do is to leverage it. And that's what we have tried to do. And either by providing some advising on what kind of social entrepreneurship programs to implement or not implement, or yes, indeed, grow vegetable gardens as an illustration of what the future for these rural communities could be. Because this is the biggest risk that we see in the countryside, not just in Asia, but across the world. It's the rural exodus. The fact that you have young generations that do not want to stay in the countryside. they look at their parents, they look at how harsh the life is for their parents, and they decide that they want to move away from that life. So you have this Eldorado of city life that looks quite appealing, but sometimes can lead to dramatic, disastrous situations for many of them. And I think what we've been trying to do together with our partners to show them that there is a future for them. There's a sustainable future, and they could still live in the countryside or in some cases in urban environment, but differently. And I think there was one interesting question here about digital inclusion, and the digitalization is also, it's an opportunity to leverage things, to facilitate the transfer of knowledge, to facilitate the economic inclusion as well. So there's many things we can do, and many things hopefully we'll continue to do all together for years to come.
Yep, thank you. And I think, yeah, this chat about digital inclusion, which makes me think of another partner of ours, which is Computer Aid. And I think Tim also knows them. He's on the call. So it'd be nice to maybe connect the organizations here looking for digital inclusion with Computer Aid, who provide laptops and computers to organizations. But it's true, I think COVID and the time that we're living in now has really shown that there are certain communities that are still cut off, and that might be because they don't have the equipment, or it might be because they don't have the skills or the connectivity. So I think hopefully that is something we can kind of address or make sure that everyone is included. There was another question sort of in the beginning of the week where we were asked about remote learning and how much we have been doing. And to be honest, we haven't, because most of our direct learning is farming, but I can see that a lot of our partners have been doing that. I know Alfonso Ngong definitely has been within academic settings, and I'm sure so has Anjali House, and now I hear so has India. So hopefully that is something that is, you know, if we look at what the next 10 years will bring, it should be more digital inclusion and making sure that everybody has a chance and everybody has access. So yeah, if there are any more questions or any more comments that people want to make, then please feel free to either raise your hands or unmute yourselves and leave a little bit of a comment. We still have some time left. I'll probably zoom through my presentation.
Maybe just also a little wave at Nini, our friend in Myanmar.
Yeah,
I think she tried to connect yesterday, but she's with us today. And obviously, we're also in thoughts with all our friends in Myanmar. They're going through a rough time right now. And so
yeah, great.
we think of you, Nini.
She's laughing. Cool. Tim, maybe do you want to add something? Because I know it's you're somebody that has visited our work in Cambodia, and you'll probably have a lot more to say tomorrow when we speak about the Agri-Tech Center. But is there anything that sort of comes to mind right now?
No, nothing in particular. Hello, everybody. No, I think the discussions around the digital inclusion are obviously key, and the work we've been doing sort of separately, but now overlapped with you with Computer Aid, takes that on. It also attracts a lot of digital sponsorship. So Dell have got a huge program put together. So I think it's about approaching those sort of quite rich side businesses who have quite a lot of funds to put across, and to show the overlap into practical use. I mean, computers don't actually do much themselves, and it's how they become they're just vital learning tools. And then when you're cut off, having that access. So lots of those projects we've been doing are solar powered. So you're getting the power and the connectivity all from a remote situation, which works well. So I think linking that in with the green shoots has been fantastic that we've done in Cambodia. So we do have solar powered donated laptops there.
Yeah.
I mean, amazingly, all the kids have mobile phones, and they haven't got much food, and they haven't got anywhere to learn, but they've got a mobile phone and watching old cartoons on it. But putting that into more practical use and doing online learning and getting everyone to join in and communicate and be part of the communities is the exciting thing about that digital connectivity, like we all are doing today.
Yeah,
There's no limit to who can join in these kind of activities.
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So yeah, it's true. I think what Tim mentioned, where 4G and that sort of connections are existing in rural Cambodia in most parts of the world now. I think also in India, and it's about using that to our benefit, making sure that that connection provides sort of the right skills. And also, I think one gap that we faced, and we'll talk about this a bit more tomorrow, is in rural Cambodia, is the lack of computer skills, because I think that they've just sort of jumped to phones, and kids are so savvy with the mobile phones and they just know their way around it much better than me even. That the computer, sometimes it's sort of a thing that they really need to navigate around. So I think also taking in mind that is especially in the rural part of the world. So with that, I think we can sort of bring the discussion to a close and probably finish a bit earlier, but feel free to email me if you have more ideas. I certainly have kind of a few direct emails to send. Yeah, thank you for your time today. And also just a call out, because we are also live on Facebook, so there's lots of other people hopefully listening. WeChoose is also doing a match funding sort of campaign during this week. So every week, every day, we're doing a call out for donations, and we'll share the link in the chat, but then also online, and people can go and contribute, and Generous Donor is matching it for up to £6,000. So that's a big amount. We hope to reach that and double our funding for the coming few years. Thank you so much for your time today. And so tomorrow, if you want to come live again, we'll be talking more about our work in Cambodia, about our Agri-Tech Center, which is in the north. And we will be sort of going through the journey of our arrival in Samrong, which you had a little bit taste of today when we spoke about our work with Enfants du Mekong. But how did we make that into what a whole space it is now? So we hope to see you tomorrow as well. And take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.